Look who's watching Joe work the room. Joe is schmoozing everybody after the speech. See what we have shaded there? That's Hunter watching every step of the way. Next video, as Joe schmoozes at the right time, Hunter moves in. All right, Hunter moves in as soon as it turns to business. Watch and listen here.
Maybe we can work something out, man.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
Well, Hunter was just telling about his firm in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Law firm.
Yeah.
Do you have a card by any chance?
I do. I don't, but I'll give you my...
Well, let me give you my card.
and then I'll give you I gave them all away.
Okay.
Well, that was a wonderful speech.
So then Joe goes right back to schmoozing, and watch the men step away to conduct business separately. You see it? Right there. That's how it worked. That's how it worked. Circumstantial, but devastating. Joe.
Yes, it's true. Once again, it is time to talk about poor little Hunter Biden and how poorly he is being treated by this justice system that will not leave him alone. He is just a little boy. He is the son of the president of the United States. He should be left alone. The family should be off limits, just like they left the Bush twins alone, and just like they left Barron alone. Off limits. Absolutely off limits. I mean, he's only a little boy of, 53 years old? And his dad loves him so much and did such a good job raising him that he's a crackhead, corrupt, lying, sociopath, lunatic who loves drugs and prostitutes. His brother's ex-wife just doesn't love telling the truth and paying his taxes and, being a good person. But Jen Psaki, she's here to tell you that his gun charge issue is not an issue for the President of the United States. In fact, it makes the President of the United States look good. And don't worry about how it kind of paints everything else that's going on with Hunter Biden and his dad in a really bad light. It's unseen how the American people will see this. Just look at this report.
I mean, we have to have a rule of law, Mika and Joe. It's such a relief to hear that from people, including when it's about, as you just said, somebody who is very close to the president. I mean, first and foremost, the politics of this are a little hard to predict.
They're actually not hard to predict. As I pointed out, they're pretty easy to predict. They tried to protect Hunter Biden as part of a corruption scheme to cover up the wrongdoings of Hunter Biden and his father. The American people are starting to see that, and you're acting like you can't understand it. Your job is to analyze politics, but you can't understand what the American people will see out of this. I'm sure they'll see this gun charge that he clearly did as some sort of abuse, and it will not reflect poorly at all on the vice president who said his son is the best man he ever knew, the smartest man he ever knew. All right? That's the one? Okay, good. Just checking. How are people going to react to this? Maybe it's good for the president.
But right now you have the president's son, somebody he loves deeply, somebody who has very publicly struggled with drug addiction.
What year was that photo taken? I mean, I want to remind you what Hunter Biden actually looks like, since you're going to see throughout this entire little piece this picture here and pictures like it where, God, it must have been 20 years ago. That's Hunter Biden now. This is the Hunter Biden they're using. I guess they don't have any B-roll footage of Hunter Biden and his dad. Now, the photos they're using. And you'll find this was not just a choice made in that moment. It's photos like this they use the entire time. Just watch.
These charges, which are serious, and I'll let Andrew do a contemplation of the legality and the process and all of that, which I know a lot of us have questions on.
What exactly are the questions that you have on the legality of all of this? The only question I have is, who's this guy standing here next to Joe Biden? Is it that guy? The guy who's been rode hard and put away wet? Is that's who we're talking about here, right? Weird. It doesn't really show up that way. It's kind of strange. Kind of strange how they decided to do it that way. I'm sure that just wasn't a choice or anything. I'm sure they pull out pictures of Donald Trump from 20 years ago, and not ones where he's looking bloated and ridiculous on a golf course. They would never do stuff like that. Anyway, back to this story.
What is tricky to watch here, and what I think we all will be watching, is what do Republicans do with this on the Hill as it relates to their impeachment process?
The real question is, what are the Republicans going to do about this? That's right. The question here is, how are Republicans going to respond? It's always how those damn Republicans are going to respond. It's never about the actual issue. It's about those rascally Republicans and what they're going to do about Joe Biden's corrupt son and his corrupt dealings that are being exposed every day. That's what it's all about. It's about how the Republicans are pouncing.
We didn't see a lot of that yesterday, a lot of the tying of these charges to their impeachment efforts. If there are additional charges that we see from the Department of Justice that Andrew just alluded to, I suspect they would try to do that. But right now, what we're looking at, and I think on the politics of this, millions of Americans have dealt with family members who have dealt with drug addiction.
I agree. This is something Americans do deal with all the time. Just the other day, my 5-year-old son said he got a check from the mayor of the widow of the mayor of Moscow. He made some deals with some Ukrainians, even though he had absolutely no business doing that. He's got Chinese business partners that he's worried about as well. He's got a crack problem too. That's right. Americans are always dealing with this kind of stuff. This is so strange to try to use real issues that real Americans have that destroy their lives to kind of cover some of this up. That he didn't know what he was doing. He was on drugs. No, when people get hooked on drugs, and you can say crack cocaine if you want, that's a recreational drug he got hooked on. We're not talking about an opioid epidemic that is wrecking this country because people took opioids and got hooked on them. Okay? This guy was smoking crack in hotel rooms with prostitutes. This was not a guy whose life collapsed because he got hooked on opioids. So that's a bunch of bullshit, and they absolutely know it. Yet it's not a surprise that these terrible, awful, no good people are trying to make that an issue. Oh, yeah, Americans will look at this like, there before the grace of God go I. If I was president, my crackhead son would make a ton of deals. Give me a break.
Who've dealt with alcohol addiction, who have dealt with a range of addiction. My bet is right now this is a heartbroken president in the White House.
Why are you smiling then? Yeah, because you don't believe this. This is like Kamala Harris laughing. This is an attempt to cover up and make excuses for something you can't make excuses for.
Who is worried about his son.
Again, this is what Hunter Biden looks like today, just so you know. I know a lot of people want to pretend that that's not what Hunter Biden looks like today, but that's what Hunter Biden looks like today. There's a guy who has a recreational drug problem. And his drug problem is just like the one your family has. And all the problems you had, from all the opioids and other stuff that have been prescribed to them, or the drugs that are coming over the border. It's exactly the same thing. That's what they're trying to sell you on. It's garbage. They know it's garbage. Everyone knows that's garbage. But they're trying to make him a sympathetic figure. That's not going to work. People are just going to get pissed off about that. And they should get pissed off about it because that is absolute garbage. Jen Psaki is garbage. Everyone that's ever worked for Joe Biden is garbage. They cannot help themselves but be garbage. And that's how they find themselves trying to defend a gun charge and trying to make sure that everyone knows that this is not at all connected to Joe Biden. Because they want to make it clear that Joe Biden has nothing to do with this. And you'll notice they mentioned early in this, or she mentioned, Jen Psaki did. She said, what are they going to do if another charge comes out? Well, if another charge comes out, it's probably going to be related to the father. Now, I'm sorry. Tax evasion, that's related to money he made with overseas dealings he did not want to disclose. Those overseas dealings were made with the help of his father. That's it. That's what the other charge is going to be. What are the other charges going to be? He's not going to get charged for messing around with prostitutes. I don't think his dad had anything to do with that, except, had the Secret Service clean some of that mess up for him, which, again, there before the grace of God go all of us. The Secret Service coming in and cleaning up our messes like that. Yeah, that happens all the time. Oh, you haven't been through that? Well, just wait until you're vice president, and then maybe one day you'll understand. One more time. This is what Hunter Biden looks like today. This is what he looks like today. Remember that when they're telling you, oh, this Hunter Biden guy, he's just the president's kid. He's 53 years old. He's 53 years old. He's not a kid. He's a loser. And he's a loser who was protected by his dad and made into a winner. You know what's about privilege? This is it right here. That is the haggard face of privilege in 2023. And they're going to hang him around to his dad's neck. And you know what? It's his dad's fault. His dad let him do all those things he was doing. He helped him. Yes, we have video now of him actually talking business with people at official events. This is all becoming clear. Oh, what are the people going to do? They're probably going to say, well, I have a drug problem in my family too. They're not going to say that. They're not going to say that. They're going to say the Biden family's corrupt, and they're going to be right. That's the simple fact of it. That's where this is going, and they can try to spin this all they want. It is never going to work.